None of us knew what they were talking about, and we were all terrified to find out as they were behaving very cryptically. Until one night a man showed up at our house. Our parents introduced Tessa to him, and the way that he looked at her and the rest of us made our skin crawl.
Yeah, any one of them will do.
You better have the money to pay, though.
Tessa instantly put two and two together and figured out that our parents were selling her to this gross stranger. We all could guess what that meant, and we were terrified. Begging was no longer enough. Our parents were now planning on pimping us out, and none of us wanted anything to do with that. We were way too young to be having sex, and we knew that it was incredibly illegal what our parents were doing.
Listen, we can't let them do this to us.
Hi there, my name is Bree and my sisters, and I have lived through a complete nightmare. We were treated worse than livestock, and our parents were the ones that put us through all of this. I know it sounds terrible. I mean, your parents are the ones that should protect you more so than anyone else. But you have to understand that my parents were beyond evil. I don't think that they even saw my sisters and I as human. So I grew up with my three sisters, Tessa, Mary, and Amy. I'm the youngest, and whether it was a good thing or a bad one, I tended to not get the worst of it. Tessa, who was the oldest, got it the worst. When we were younger, they treated us like burdens. We would often keep as quiet as possible to avoid their attention. If we didn't, then it usually didn't end well. Hey Tessa, can we please play hide and seek?
Shh, don't be too loud. If Dad hears you, he'll be upset. He's trying to sleep.
That's too late. You stupid little brats woke me up. I worked all night to feed you ungrateful morons, and you repay me by ruining my sleep. Just wait till I get my hands on you.
We all ran as fast as we could, as we knew that if he caught any of us, that he would beat us until we were unconscious. He was always crankiest when he was tired, and sadly, he seemed to be tired often. That day we didn't return until it was nearly bedtime. When we snuck back into the house, we very carefully made our way up to our rooms. We were amazed when we got into our beds without being discovered. We found out why, though, in the morning. Our father and mother were waiting for us in the kitchen. All of us were hungry, and we were hoping to find some bread for breakfast, but instead we found them waiting for us. Each had a belt in their hand, and they looked at us angrily. They took turns whipping us each with the belts before finally forcing us to sit down at the table to listen to them.
You ungrateful kids. Did you enjoy your little vacation last night away from home? I really hope that you did, because the free ride is done. I'm sick of you pieces of crap getting a free ride while your mother and I do all the work.
Yeah, no more free food. It's time that you pay for your share. Since you can't get real jobs, then you will just have to go and beg for money.
But Mama, we don't know how to do that.
Well, you better figure out how to do it, because if you don't bring home enough money, then we aren't going to give you another piece of food ever again. Now go.
They threatened us with the belts again as we left and rushed to Main Street. We spent several hours begging anyone that walked by for anything they could spare. When we were exhausted and nearly passing out from a lack of food, we finally went home and presented the money we had been given to our parents. We had managed to get almost $100, which felt like a massive fortune at the time, but our parents scoffed at us and treated it like it was mere pennies.
Is this it? You would think that 4 girls could get more than that. Geez, you little pieces of crap are pathetic.
Fine, it's better than nothing. Fine, you can have some bread and water, but tomorrow you better earn more or else.
Each day we would be sent out and spend all day begging on the streets regardless of what weather was like. It didn't matter if it was snowing or raining or swelteringly hot. We still had to go and beg. As the years went on, though, people would give us less and less. People were far more sympathetic towards us when we were younger, but less so as we started to grow up. It was around the time when Tessa turned 15 that things took an even darker turn for us.
What's wrong with you idiots? You had one simple job and you can't even do that right.
Such useless little creatures. Well, I have an idea of how we can make some money off of them.
Ha 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 ha. Yeah, I know exactly what you're getting at. That's a great idea. We'll start with Tessa then?
Haha, yeah.
What do you mean start with me? What are you going to do to me?
This is scary. What are you guys talking about?
Oh, you'll find out when you are older.
None of us knew what they were talking about, and we were all terrified to find out as they were behaving very cryptically. Until one night a man showed up at our house. Our parents introduced Tessa to him, and the way that he looked at her and the rest of us made our skin crawl.
Yeah, Any one of them will do.
You better have the money to pay, though.
Tessa instantly put two and two together and figured out that our parents were selling her to this gross stranger. We all could guess what that meant, and we were terrified. Begging was no longer enough. Our parents were now planning on pimping us out, and none of us wanted anything to do with that. We were way too young to be having sex, and we knew that it was incredibly illegal what our parents were doing.
Listen, we can't let them do this to us. It was bad enough begging every day, but now they are going too far. We need to run.
But what will we do?
That doesn't matter. We'll figure it out. Anything is better than letting that freak come back and get his hands on us.
We all agreed and set out into motion. We knew that our parents wouldn't just let us run away, so Tessa and Mary distracted them while Amy and I ran to the kitchen and grabbed kitchen knives and a rolling pin. With our parents still distracted, I swung the rolling pin down hard onto my mother's head while Amy used the knife she carried to cut our father's ankles. The two fell down in utter pain. While they wailed in agony, the four of us ran out the back door. While we did, we heard the strange man call out to us as he saw us fleeing. We ran as fast as we could, and he jumped into his car and chased after us. It was crazy as we ran towards downtown and hoped that we could lose him while we ran into the alleys that we had learned while we were begging. After an hour of running, we thought that we had finally lost him. We settled down and rested and tried to catch our breath. Once we had calmed down, we decided that we needed to beg for a bit so that we could make enough money to rent a motel room so we could stay out of sight. We were incredibly grateful when we finally got enough to get a room, and we rushed over to the nearest motel and rented a small one-bedroom. We took turns sleeping, but while Amy was taking her turn to watch, she woke us up and was startled.
You guys need to wake up. Both our parents and that creepy guy are here.
Oh God, no. What are we supposed to do?
I don't know, but we need to figure it out and quick.
We quickly set about finding things to defend ourselves with. Amy and I grabbed the blanket off the bed and put ourselves on either side of the door while Tessa and Mary grabbed anything that was tied down to throw at them should they come into the room. Suddenly, there was a heavy banging on the door.
We know that you are in there. The front desk told us that you rented this room. Now let us in, and we promise to not beat you. As for Tessa, you have no choice. This man paid us good money for you. Now open up. Yeah, come on, little girl. You belong to me.
We will never let you in.
I was so angry that our parents would put us in this situation. Suddenly, the door started rattling and the hinges began groaning as they began trying to force their way into the room. Bang after bang, until finally the door burst open. The stranger was the first into the room, and he ran towards Tessa when he saw her. Amy and I pulled the blanket tight and tripped him. As he fell to the ground, his pockets emptied out and a handgun fell to the ground in front of me. I instantly scooped it up and pointed it at the stranger, and I pulled the trigger twice. Both bullets hit him in the chest and he stopped moving. Our parents were next through the doorway and they charged towards Tessa as well because they thought that she had the gun. They hadn't seen me, and since I was blinded by rage, I pointed the gun at them and pulled the trigger several times. Both were hit many times before falling to the ground. I didn't realize what I had done until I saw them laying motionless on the ground. All of us panicked except Tessa, who grabbed the gun from me, and then she wiped it down with the bedsheet before placing it in the hands of the dead stranger. We then ran out of the room and headed home. We didn't know what to expect, but we raided the kitchen and just ate our food before going to bed. Before the sun came up, we heard a knock at the front door. Slowly, we made our way there and checked it to see that it was a police officer. He was very kind, and he told us that he wasn't certain what had happened, but our parents were involved in a shooting with a known criminal, and not only had he died, but they had also died. He was very sorry for our loss, but that we needed to go with him. The next few weeks were a blur mostly. Surprisingly, no one mentioned that we had rented the room or anything, and no one suspected that we were involved in the shooting. For me, I was left haunted by what I did, even though a big part of me knew that I was at the very least partially justified. Eventually, we were put into foster homes, and thankfully we were able to grow up without any more crazy drama, but all of us were scarred just a little. The years passed, and we grew up. My sisters were always very grateful for what I did, and although it gives me nightmares every now and then, I will say that if I could go back in time and choose whether or not to do it again, that I would not change a thing.